Hi guys, it's ArchieLuxury and welcome to the ArchieLuxury channel. Guys, I want to have a talk to you today and I just want to say to people, it's what do you do when you can't get your dream Rolex? What do you do? And I'm not talking about because your dream Rolex is precious metal. I'm not talking about that sort of aspirations. I'm talking about there's just no supply. And for example, this Millie, I'm just doing a quick wristwatch check. I'm wearing the Z Blue. The whole Rolex situation is pretty damn nasty. You go into a Rolex AD, a dealer, and you say, "Hey, I'd like to get a steel sports stunner. What do you have?" I'd like to get a steel sports stunner, and they kind of scoff and laugh at you. And the whole marketplace has become supply and demand. It's orientated to the VVIPs. And it can be a really frustrating thing. And I've got to tell you, if you're new to the hobby or you've come into it and you're thinking, I'll just bide my time on a wait list, well, the reality is those wait lists do not really exist. I mean, there is wait lists, but let's be honest watchers will always go first to VIPs, people with a buying history. And you're not going to get a buying history unless you're going to spend mega money. I actually highlighted this in one of my videos where I explained that a good friend of mine got a Pepsi by spending $250,000 Australian dollars, which that's a big ask. That's a big ask. Unless you have serious resources, that is a huge ask. So what do you do? And I've got to say, it really is disheartening. The hobby is really disheartening when you can't get anything. The biggest problem is that it's done in a really nasty, vicious way. The dealers don't tell you the truth. You don't know the goalposts or what you need to do. Dealers, they are full of shit. In my own town of Brisbane, the official Rolex dealers are Langford's and Hourglass, and I've got to be totally honest with you when I say they're not terribly friendly. With Hourglass itself there, unless you've got a buying history of buying softer brands, you ain't going to get anything. You ain't going to get anything really great. And as for Langford's, well, Langford's themselves, they're in Brisbane. They wouldn't even give me a damn catalogue. That's right. This actual Millie was a Langford's watch. It's a Langford's watch. And they still wouldn't give me jack shite. They wouldn't give me nothing. And it gets very disheartening. It's very disheartening. Like, you're just a normal... I mean, how do you know the rules? I mean, these dealers are as pretentious as Fike, and it's the problem is this new retail environment. Things have never really existed like this, and you go in there and say, "Oh, look, what's the story? I'd really like." Say you want a Rolex Submariner, and they treat you. They treat you with such disdain. That's a very hard to get model, sir. There's it's a bit of a wait list. It's terrible. And I got to tell you, you really feel intimidated by the AD. Instead of the AD saying, "Look, there is a certain wait list," or if the AD told you the truth and said, "Look, you can put a deposit down and it's going to take this long," or "You really need to spend X amount of dollars before you can be considered for this watch," They got to explain the process. Instead, these ADs, they're aloof, really aloof fikers. They're really aloof, and they assume you as the customer know the situation, and it's really poor. I got an email the other day from a guy who said to me, "Oh, why is it that Rolexes are selling more on the second-hand market than the new market? Can't I just go?" And he didn't understand. He didn't understand the whole Rolex situation. He was just feeling his way. He's just trying to feel his way around. And admittedly, I told him to get fiked. I said, "Hey, throw us a few bucks and I'll run you up to speed." But being a cheap-ass son of a bitch that he was, he didn't want to spend a dime. And I gave him the abrupt answer. I gave him the very abrupt answer. But it's interesting. There's people there who aren't watch people. They don't know the history or the fact that you can't just go in and buy a Submariner. I mean, you've always been able to, people sell product and you go in there, pay the price, get a discount and leave. Well, those days are over. You've got it's a very, very tricky way to buy product. And I've got to tell you, it's so intimidating. What do? So you rely on your friends and colleagues. Well, a lot of the time they don't know much about watches. They haven't really been on that. You go on the forums and there's a lot of jerks there, just jerks, and they kind of, it's very, very hard to get the inside track. Who do you talk to? No one really says, this is the situation, this is what you need to do. There's no written rules. And I still get heaps of emails of people saying, I want to set up a AD relationship. And I kind of ask the question, well, what are you planning on buying? They say, oh, mate, I'll get a Tudor, I'll get an Omega. And I'm thinking, hey. You're not spending anywhere near enough. And they're saying, oh, I'd really like a Pepsi, I'd really like a Sub. Well, stop, back the truck up. Back the truck up. They have no idea. And this is the sad thing. There's no rule book. It's like etiquette, It's like etiquette. If you walked in to a fancy-wancy restaurant, started eating the food with your hands, people would look at you. But how would you know that? See, normally your parents have taught you, if you're going to a snooty restaurant, for starters, we would have a tie on there, and we start on the outside and move in with the cutlery. And we hope that over the years, they've taught us that you just don't grab things and put them in your mouth. You use the knife and fork. And, if you're Asian, you've mainly used chopsticks. How would you know? There's cultural things. And with the whole AD experience, no one kind of tells you the rules. What is going on? How much do you need to buy? What do you need to do to secure a Steel Sports Rolex? What do you need to do? It's very, very, very tricky. And this is what makes it so hard. A lot of people don't understand these rules. And they get offended when they go in there and the dealers really, they kind of make fun of it. And you've got to understand, a lot of these people who work in the dealers for the ADs, they're not the brightest sparks in the woods. I mean, these are people on $20 to $30 an hour. They're not, they are sales staff. They're not high. They're kind of, their people skills, they're in an industry. They're professional, polite, but they're not the winners, are they, in life? And this is the whole problem. When you go to the ADs, a lot of the staff there, they're new to the industry and they assume that you know all about this. And the reality is, There is no official book or leaflet that says if you want to buy a Rolex, you need to do this. It's not explained. And I got to be honest with you, I think the watch market is very intimidating. It's very intimidating because you have no idea. You think, oh, I'd like to get a Rolex. So you think, oh, okay, a Rolex costs X number of dollars. I'll save up for that, and I'll give it a shot. But you don't understand. You can't actually get one of these Rolexes. It's very, very hard. It's very tricky. It's not as easy as just turning up there with the dough on a credit card and off you go. It is extremely difficult. So I got to tell you, it is very frustrating. I really think the sad thing is here, the dealers, they don't actually tell you what's going on. They don't tell you, look, there's a massive supply shortage and you got Buckley's chance of getting anything unless you spend an absolute mozza. Unless you spend a mozza, you got no chance. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that. And that's kind of the sad thing. It is very, very tricky. It's tricky and it's annoying. So I got to be honest with you. What's the best advice? My best advice, I'd probably say you want to go to a pre-owned dealer, a good pre-owned dealer. Get him to take you under your wing. Say, hey, what's the story? I'd really like a Rolex. That's probably your best way to find out, because the ADs, they are snooty and they're just difficult, absolute difficult. Very hard to deal with and just not a fun experience in the least. Okay, guys, I'm ArchieLuxury. Like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Don't forget, guys, I can't make money out of Google Ads. I depend on Patreon. Like, I need a new chair soon. Get me on Patreon, and I would love to send you some information. I give a little updates, tidbits, have a little bit of a private chat. Patreon, sign up today. Look in the description. Little as $1 a month, and you can keep me on YouTube. Hi guys, ArchieLuxury, and who do I recommend in America? In America, who do I recommend for quality pre-owned wristwatches? David SW, David SW, David SW. Go to davidsw.com. He is the best, the greatest pre-owned dealer in all of the United States of America. David SW, David SW, David SW. Like, subscribe, and tell your friends, and don't be afraid to get a paid review. $50 for a paid review. It helps me stay full-time on YouTube, and I will see you in the next one. $50 paid review. I can't survive on Google Ads. I need your support. And guys, you could also sponsor me on Patreon. Patreon allows you to pay as little as $1 a month to keep me on YouTube. Hey guys, ArchieLuxury. Who do I recommend for watches in Brisbane and Sydney? Vintage Watch Co. That's correct. Vintage Watch Co. in Brisbane Arcade in Brisbane and the Strand Arcade in Sydney. Vintage Watch Co. Brisbane and Sydney. Ronnie, I've known him since the late 90s. Ronnie is a top bloke. Luke is a great guy. Vintage Watch Co. That is who I recommend in Australia. Check out Vintage Watch Co. and the guys' amazing range of watches. They also do service and repairs. Vintage Watch Co. That is where the pontiff goes. You know, some of my Pateks came from Vintage Watch Co. That's right, guys. Vintage Watch Co.